Okay, so what we're going to look at now is we're going to look at Level 1 Functional Skills English writing paper. And this is an example paper that City and Guild send out. And obviously the questions in your actual exam will be different, but it will look very similar to this. So, if we scroll down, there's the usual stuff that you fill in, and that will all be there for you on the day. You'll have your candidate enrolment number, obviously you know your own date of birth, and centre number, etc. Now you'll notice initially, the first thing to notice here really is that, unlike in other years, you get 1 hour 20 minutes for this. Now there are 2 tasks, so you're told to answer both questions. Do make sure you answer both questions. So that works out at roughly 40 minutes per task. Now personally, I would suggest breaking that down a bit. So I would suggest taking a good 5-10 minutes to plan, then take about 25 to 30 minutes to write the thing, and make sure you save time at the end to proofread. Proofreading is crucial here. Now, you need to read each question carefully. That's especially important because you're expected to draw quite a lot of information from the questions, as we'll see in a little bit. Unlike in previous years, dictionaries, electronic grammar and spell checkers are not permitted, so you cannot use a dictionary in this exam. However, the way the mark scheme works now means that they are slightly more forgiving on spelling errors than they have been in previous years. So, it will give you a quick blurb on what you're being assessed on, and you'll see here this is all stuff we've looked at so far in the course. So getting across ideas and information clearly and accurately, appropriate detail to suit audience and purpose, so looking at purpose and audience. So this is all stuff you've done to date in the Moodle course and the virtual sessions. And using appropriate format, structure and language for purpose and audience. That's thinking about your language features and also thinking about how you're going to lay out your document. So using complex sentences, again, we've looked at that. Using paragraphs where appropriate, again, we've looked at that. And spelling, punctuation and grammar. So, the first task will look something like this. And you are going to write a set of instructions. Okay? So they've given you a series of different instructions that you could write here. So you could bake a cake, evacuation procedures, how to learn to ride a bike, do a trick on a skateboard. There's a very, very wide range of potential subjects here. You can pick how to build a snowman, how to drive a car, how to use the social media. And they suggest you write 200 to 250 words for this. Now, what I strongly recommend is that you do not count the words, okay? This is a guidance, so get used to how big your writing is. And before you go for the exam, just have a go at writing out a task and see roughly how many words are in a side of A4 for you, because everyone's handwriting is different, and that'll give you a rough idea. So if you figure out you can write, say, you know, sort of like a page and a half would be 250 words for you, you know roughly that's how much you need to write. Okay? So what you would do here is you would pick out one of these, you'd have a look at the task, so you write an introduction to someone who's brand new to the topic, and you would use this space here to plan. So that's when you'd use SLAP. So thinking about your situation, which is writing a set of instructions. Your layout, so how are you going to lay it out? You might use bullet points, you might use subheadings. Your audience, so it's someone who's brand new to the subject, so you might need to explain some of the terminology, what these things mean. And your purpose. So your purpose is for people to be able to read this and go away and know what to do. And then once you've written your plan, and as I said before, that should be around about 5-10 minutes, you would then write up your full thing. Now, with the proofreading, you're going to go back through and correct. One thing that's really crucial to mention here is the examiner is expecting to see crossings out, you know, sort of like little asterisks to sort of include more information, that sort of thing. That's absolutely fine. It does not have to look tidy, okay? A lot of people get into this mindset where they have to produce something that's absolutely perfect, absolutely tidy, no crossings out, no corrections. That's wrong. The examiner understands that in real life you probably type this up afterwards, okay? They're not expecting to see a perfect, pristine document, okay? So, as you can see, this is worth 27 marks. And question 2 is also worth 27 marks. So, what's quite interesting is in previous years, before they reformed these, one of the tasks would be worth more than the other. That's not the case anymore. Both the tasks are worth the same amount of marks, so you spend equal amount of time on them. And you'll notice as well, your second task is not the same. Okay? Beforehand, what would happen is the task would be thematically linked. So you'd have one letter to write on, say, litter and local area, and then you'd be given a task where you had to write a newspaper article about litter and local area. There'd be a thematic link. This not the case this time. So again, you'd approach this in the same way. You'd read through, you'd pick out the key crucial information. So at work, you notice several health and safety hazards and decide to write an email to your manager. And they've given you a list of the hazards here. So you know this is what you need to write about. And your task is to write an email to your manager explaining the following. And you've got here a nice little sort of like address here, so you know who to send it to. So immediately what you're doing is you're using SLAP again, so you're working out your situation. Well, your situation is that there are various health and safety hazards. Your layout is going to be an email, so you're going to remember a subject line, you're going to remember the email address you're writing to, etc., etc. You're going to use paragraphing. Your audience is your manager, so you're going to be nice and formal here. And your purpose is to explain what's happened, just to describe what's happened. And again, 200 to 250 words. So get used to how big your handwriting is and work out roughly how many words you write in a page. And again, it doesn't have to be exact. This is a suggested word count. They don't mind too much if you go a little over, a little under. So that'll be your space for your planning and drafting. And you'll see here, they've actually laid, when they give you the email questions, they've actually sort of laid this out quite nicely. So that's a nice little reminder to you how to lay it out. So you know you need to write the subject, you know you need to write the email address. And there we go. So if we have a quick look at the mark scheme now, we'll see roughly what you're marked on. Okay. So, as you can see here, written composition, so this is basically what you're writing, is worth 56%, whereas spelling, punctuation and grammar is worth 44%. And that's across both questions. And you will see here that because this is an example one, they've sort of gone back and corrected this themselves. So what you're marked on is it's sort of marked overall holistically. Okay, so the key indicators are here with limited success. So if your information and ideas aren't particularly clear, then you'd only get a 1 for that. You'd only be in band 1 for that. And what we do is we work out overall. So say, for instance, someone is communicating information, ideas and opinions clearly, consistently and accurately. So they're getting across the information they need to get across and they're going into the right sort of level of detail. Okay. However, they're not really using they're not using complex sentences that well. So they've only got some accurate use of complex sentences and appropriate language. And the other two here, so they're paragraphing well, and they're writing text at a mostly appropriate level of detail, so they're including the right amount of detail most of the time. So if someone looked like this, what we'd do is work out their score would be roughly in the middle somewhere, so they'd be getting 8 to 11 marks. Okay, so that's broadly how this is worked out. So they look at the bullet points here, and we work out roughly where you are for each of those sort of key bullet points. And there are going to be some mark schemes attached in the Moodle for you to have a closer look at. Spelling, punctuation and grammar is again worked out like this. So you get a maximum of 4 and a minimum of 0 for each of these areas. So spelling, punctuation and grammar. So if your spelling is consistently accurate, you'll get a full 4 marks. Now you'll notice here, you don't have to get every single word spelt correctly to get top marks here. They will allow 1, maybe 2 spelling errors, especially on complex words. Beyond that though, you would start to lose marks. And you see here, 0 marks would be where your spelling is so bad that they can't really understand what you're trying to say. And again, this follows for punctuation and grammar. So they expect to see a range of punctuation, and if it's used consistently and accurately, you'll get the full marks. Okay, so there we go. That's a quick overview of the Level 1 writing paper. So now you can download one of the sample ones, have a go at it, and email it to your tutor.